consumer inflation climbed to 5.1% in September from 4.8% in August. The currency was already trading lower after President Jacob Zuma reshuffled his cabinet on Tuesday. Well, I spoke to Kingsley Makhubela, the CEO of Brand South Africa at the TRT World Forum here in Istanbul. I began by asking him about the corruption charges against Jacob Zuma.
We are a constitutional democracy. Whatever the courts pronounce, the government is expected to fulfill the decision of the court. Whether you are a head of state or whoever you are, if the courts have made a pronouncement, those pronouncements must be followed through.
How do you reassure investors, given this cocktail of having two financial ministers fired, the IMF cutting your forecast, and also losing your top place in Africa as a place to do business in? How do you reassure investors with all of this?
Finance ministers are politicians. They are political appointees. What the international system or the international community should rely on, it's policies. Policies are still the same. Protection of foreign investment and control, inflation controls. Those policies are in place. And of course, setting up system to allow companies to invest in South Africa. Basically establishing predictable systems and processes for investment. The fiscal discipline that is there, it's not changing. Individuals are changing, but the policy is the same. And I think we should rely on policies. Because if you have to base yourself on individuals, politicians are changing all over the world, not only in South Africa.
And just going back to some numbers, inflation is back up to 5%. How, or what is the government going to do to prevent stagflation now?
Well, there's a discussion that is going around in the country in terms of really jump-starting the economy and allow better growth. And the issue again is that you can't increase inflation now when there's no growth, because it's going to create serious hardship within the country. The focus is around putting more resources in infrastructure and generating more jobs. That's where the focus is. Tourism is one sector that we really spending a lot of resources to attract a lot of tourists into the country, because it has the potential to contribute close to 9% to our GDP. So there's the focus, the infrastructure development. We're moving from a very zero base in some instances. If we were to do that, it would generate more jobs. But the most important thing is the private sector. Jobs are created more by the private sector. Is to try to stimulate that and to encourage business in the country not to hoard money, but to really use that money, recapitalize it in the country and reinvest that money in the country.